triangle classification. If I ask you to identify as precise and specific as you can a triangle, you can't just say a triangle. You can't even just say a right triangle. You have to give me 2 adjectives and then that it's a triangle. So it might be a right scalene triangle. It could be a right isosceles triangle. You have to give me 2 adjectives and that it's a triangle. This is where a lot of people end up losing points on skill drills, on quizzes and tests and so on. So any triangle falls into at least 2 classifications. One that's based on its angles and one that's based on its side lengths. So that's 2 different things you have to think about which adjectives you're going to pull from. So triangles can be classified by comparing the lengths of their sides and measures of their angles. And for that we're going to have 3 possible adjectives that you can use. The first one is when you have all 3 of them being the exact same size. So the same length, sides, and all the angles are 60 degrees. Does anyone know what that one would be called? What kind of triangle has all 3 sides the same length and 60-degree angles for everything? Yes, sir?
Equilateral.
Equilateral. Now, it sounds like it's going to have the word equal, but it's equilateral. I just had to double check that to make sure I wasn't lying to you. Equilateral. Equilateral triangle has 3 congruent sides and 3 congruent angles. You know what I want? Oh no, I guess never mind. My bad. I'll talk about that later. Sometimes in some books and such you'll see it called equiangular. And that's just focusing on the angles instead of the side lengths, and that's fine too. Equiangular. Now there's another type of triangle where 2 sides. Shh. Without speaking out, I'm trying to give you a memory trick to remember that it has two sides that are equal. 2 of them are congruent. 2 out of the 3. Just 2. 2. So what do you think that one is called? Yes, ma'am. The isosceles triangle. Is there anyone in here who thinks they can spell isosceles? We might have several tries, but go ahead, you start us.
I-S-O-S-C-E-L-E-S.
Dang, you're good. Usually, like, it takes half the class to get that spelled right. So I say it's got like a little bit of a rhythm to it. I-S-O-S-C-E-L-E-S. Okay, the S at the end, no rhythm. But I-S-O-S-C-E-L-E-S. And there's at least one worksheet where, I don't remember if it's on an opener or if it's on a homework, but that it's spelled wrong. I don't know if we'll actually use it this year. But I-S-O-S-C-E-L-E-S has at least 2 congruent sides and at least 2 congruent angles. And then there's another type where, ironically, nothing balances at all. Ironically. So nothing balances. They're all different shapes. I mean sizes, not shapes. Not shapes, I mean shapes. They're all different sizes and all different amount of angle degrees. So what one is that called?
Scaling.
The scaling. So when I think of a scale, I think of things being balanced. No, this one's ironically not balanced at all. None of the sides are congruent. So who thinks they can spell scaling?
Oh,
You gonna give it a try?
actually, no, never mind.
She's so just timid. 3 to get things wrong. It's okay. We all get things wrong. Have you seen me? You're gonna give it a try?
S-C-A-L-E-N-E.
Mm-hmm.
And is that supposed to be a frowny face down there? Huh? Oh, that's what I meant.
This thing?
No, that one. The one
In the
that
parentheses.
it says the blank, and then semicolon.
Oh, over here, no.
Colon.
It's a colon because I had a parenthetical thought. Anyway, scalene triangle has no congruent sides and no congruent angles. So that is one of the adjectives you would pick, either equilateral, isosceles, and scalene. Those are the three choices for one of the I can't even think anymore. What adjectives? Think about the word adjectives. All right. It's very much a language arts based class today. It's all about spelling and adjectives. Turns out. Anyway. Triangles can also be classified by the measure of their interior angles. And then I have a little side note, which add up to 180 degrees. So you can't just say, oh, if it adds up to 180 degrees, it must be a certain type of triangle. That's every triangle in the whole wide world. Now, another interesting thing about every triangle in the whole wide world, all triangles have to have at least 2 acute angles. Think about it. If it had more than one right angle, it would go over 180 degrees. If it had a straight angle, it wouldn't be a triangle, because it already took up all 180 degrees. It can't be an obtuse angle because it can have only 180 degrees exactly. So 2 of the angles have to be acute. So don't look at a triangle and just go, oh, there's an acute angle, must be an acute triangle. Every triangle has 2 that are acute. So they get classified by the third angle. So a right triangle will have 2 acute angles and 1 angle that measures exactly 90 degrees. An obtuse triangle will have 1 angle that measures more than 90 degrees. And again, the other 2 are going to be acute. So the only time you're going to call it an acute triangle is if all 3 angles measure less than 90 degrees. Yes, ma'am.
How do you know if it's the third angle?
Well, you just have to make sure you look at all 3
Oh.
before you can make a judgment on what type of angle is. So go ahead and try the examples down the bottom. To help you out on these, I'm going to put in notches to let you know when things are congruent. So the second one is hard visually perhaps to see the lengths. So this one would be a single notch, and this one a double notch, and this one a triple notch to indicate that they are not congruent, as opposed to this one, all 3 would have the same amount of notches, or there's another word for it, but I can't think of it at the moment. So this one has double, and this one has single, single, to show that these ones are congruent, but that one is not. And this one, I'm going to put a triple notch here, single notch there, double notch there. To figure out the angles, and whether or not they're acute or right, then you can use the corner of your paper. All right, what about that first triangle? Who can tell me with the 2 adjectives for that first triangle in the examples at the bottom? 2 adjectives. Equilateral and acute. This is an equilateral acute triangle. Who can tell me the 2 adjectives for the second triangle? The second triangle's 2 adjectives. Yes, sir.
It's obtuse and scalene.
Obtuse and scalene. Bless you. What about the two adjectives for the third triangle that we're looking at here? 2 adjectives. Two adjectives. Yes, ma'am.
Acute and isosceles.
Acute and isosceles. And then the last one. What are the two adjectives we should use for the last triangle there? Such a scaredy cat. Yes, ma'am.
Right scale.
Right, it's a right scalene triangle.
Yeah.
So if it just says give me two adjectives for the triangle, you would say right and scalene, but if it says describe that shape as precisely as you can, it's a right scalene triangle. Just to give you a heads up about the difference there. And now it's time for the music video.